and he keeps going to his amp and turning it up. You see him nonstop going, and I was like, this guy doesn't care, and it was awesome. He killed it. He was probably my favorite part. Of that entire show was seeing him out.
But imagine, last week I had the amazing pleasure to meet and film some content with the incredible Roy ZIV. He's an absolutely incredible guitar player, so if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to his channel. We ended up chatting for hours that day, everything to do with guitar and social media and our approach to music. About halfway through, I decided, hey, how about we set up the cameras and capture some of our conversation, because I thought you guys might enjoy it and get some value out of it. So here's our impromptu chat together. I hope you enjoy. We were talking about some guitar players today and stuff, but who would you say are some of your favorites?
So my number one would be Steve Vai.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, growing up, it was always Steve Vai. To me, it's just the way he plays. It's just like he's making the guitar talk and laugh. Like, who does that? You know?
Rose.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, that would be really my number one. But I like John Petrucci.
Nice.
Heavily influenced by Guthrie Govan.
Nice. Yeah.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
Nice. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for how much of an influence he's had and how iconic he is.
Exactly.
And I saw a video recently of Guthrie talking about that, where he said people miss the feel in Yngwie's playing. And you don't hear people talk about that very often, but he has insane feel.
Yeah, insane feel. No, his playing is, it's unbelievably, it's smooth, it's great, you know, that's the thing, a lot of people just kind of like talk about the negatives.
Yeah.
Other stuff, they'll be like, oh, well, all his songs sound the same, and you know, and why is the mix like this, and why is he playing all the instruments? Like, why don't you hire, you know?
Or
and it's like
just harmonic minor. It's
exactly, and it's like he kills it.
It's like saying Eddie's only the whammy bar.
Right.
It's like, what?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You know, and it's like, I don't know. I think he kills it at what he does, and I think it sounds amazing. Yeah. So he was a huge influence. Paul Gilbert, massive influence. You know, I had every single one of his DVDs growing up. You know, I watched all his instructional videos. Who else?
We're all the same so far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
This is all like...
Jason Becker.
Are you a Jason Becker fan?
Yeah. Growing up, I used to listen to a lot of Cacophony and stuff, you know.
It's insane. And to keep in mind that he's like 18 years old when these records are being made. But like, the thing with Becker is like, yes, there are 18-year-olds who can shred. They have the technical proficiency, but he has the musical maturity, the compositional, the sense of melody, almost no one has that at 18. Like
exactly, yeah.
You usually have to play 18 years to get close to that. He is 18. It's like,
no, it was
he's one
different.
of the few people that I would say is a genius. Like, I don't usually use that word for guitar players, because like, even someone like Vai, it's like, well, he's put in insane work to get to where he is. But with Becker, it's like he didn't even have enough years to put in the same
so
work.
Young.
It's just, it blows my mind. And even when I listen to him now, it's just like, it's hard to fathom that he's doing that stuff, you know? And again, like compositionally too. It's like, it's not just shredding over a blues.
Right,
you know,
which to me is like a big part of it. It's like, you know, it's less about the technique and more, it's not really less about the technique. You got to have it all. Yeah. And then big part of that is writing melodies and can you compose a song?
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, you listen to all these, at least my favorite players, you know, I enjoy the songs. You know, Satriani, great songs, you know, great player, but also great songs. You can listen to the song while driving your car.
100%.
You know?
When we were talking earlier, I said that my dad doesn't play guitar at all. He got me into Satriani.
Really?
He showed me Flying in a Blue Dream and all that stuff.
Right.
Because I liked Eddie, and he's like, well, if you like Eddie, you got to check out.
Right.
And then I remember I think I got the tabs for Flying in a Blue Dream. It's like, there's no way there's this many notes in this. And it's like, oh yeah, no, it's, that's what he's doing.
So growing up, did you learn all these songs? Were you learning like?
I would try. It's funny when I watch like Paul Gilbert, like he's just like a riff machine. He can play every riff you ever mentioned to him. I'm not like that at all.
You ever seen was it Marty Friedman and Paul Gilbert when they play that game, that ABC game, and then they're like, he's like, hey, AC/DC, and then he's like, I love that. It's like,
would you be good at that game? Like,
no.
So it'd be funny if you and I were doing that. It's just, no, I don't know it either.
And I think the problem is with me when I was growing, I just never had the patience to learn songs, and I have a pretty good ear. So I just went by that. I was like, well, I heard the song. Let me kind of like, and when I started teaching full time, and I was teaching full time for years, that's when I realized, like, oh, I don't know how to play any of these songs. Because as soon as it comes in and wants to learn it properly, like all these Rush songs I was playing completely wrong, and
Me
you
too,
know,
I had the
all these Van
exact same.
Halen songs I was playing my way, you know, and they're like, and it's like, okay, hold on, let's sit down, let's look at the tab. Wow, I'm playing this completely different, and this is actually fun. Wow, look at the shapes that he was doing. I didn't even know he was doing that. You know,
that's so funny. I have the exact same thing. Still have the exact same thing happen all the time. But so here's the thing I want to say to that is, like, with social media, like I post a lot of covers recently, right? So there's way more pressure to get it exact.
Yeah.
If I'm not like, and I'm still not exact, but if I'm not like 99% close, people just rip you apart. Like, it doesn't sound anything like it.
Which is why I don't post covers.
But the point is not to be 100% to. It's supposed to be to play your own way.
Yeah,
like if you
not on social media.
Right. But if we had Eddie Van Halen play Comfortably Numb, he's going to sound like Eddie Van Halen.
Right.
He's not going to try to sound like David Gilmour.
Exactly.
He wouldn't care.
And I would want to hear the Van Halen version of that, you know, and I would want to hear the ZIV version of that.
Exactly.
I would want to hear, you know, everyone's version of that.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Like, I posted recently like a Steve Vai solo, one of my favorite songs, Crying Machine.
I love that. I love the way you did it.
Thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
So I love that song. I play it almost probably every week. Like, it's every time I'm bored and I need to jam with something, I'll put on the backing track. I've been playing on that song for years. I love it. And one day I was like, this would be a cool video. Like, let's put it up. And some people liked it, and a lot of people, I was like, oh my God, he ruined it. That's we're adding way too many notes, like this and that. And I was like, this is why I hate it. Because they expect you to play it exact, 100% exactly like it was. And that's never going to happen with me. I don't have the patience to learn it. And two, I want to play it my way. I think it'll sound cool to add a little lick in between this. Like, let me embellish it. Let me enjoy it.
But
you know,
here's how I think about that: is if I came out to a venue, if there was a bar locally and you were playing and you went up and did that solo, everybody would be like, "He killed it!" Like that would he just destroyed it. Social media, nope, no, it's terrible. It's
they want to hear it exact.
I did a Pantera one recently, Domination, and I didn't give two thoughts to try and it didn't even enter my mind to try to match Dimebag's tone. Like, it didn't even, and all the comments were just
That's
like,
not his
you know,
tone.
Yeah, but it's my tone.
Right.
Of course, it's not his tone; it's my tone. Like, why? But the point of being a guitar player is to express yourself, not to mimic. It would be like me sitting here trying to talk like you talk. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's like when I pick up a guitar, I do this. When you pick up a guitar, you do that. And that's what you should do. That's what you should strive to do, and not be an exact copy. Because why would you ever want to listen to an exact copy of Steve Vai when you have Steve Vai?
Yeah, when everyone's like, oh, you're playing, I was like, or when people ask me, like, play this solo, I was like, go listen to the original if you want me to play it exact. I'm not going to play it as good as him, so go listen to the original.
Yeah.
I'll never get it exact. I'm not going to get the little nuances and things. So why do you want, well, I want to hear you do it. Okay, so here's my version of it. Here's how I do it. Well, I don't like that because it doesn't sound the same. Well, that's what you're going to get, you know? It's one of those things. But I think that kind of helped me growing up eventually get my sound. Because I wanted to play like Vai. I wanted to play like Malmsteen. I want to play like Satch and all these people and Paul Gilbert, and I would get the tabs. And I wouldn't understand it. I'd be like, this is it didn't sound right to me. Especially Malmsteen tabs. I'd play it and I'd be like, that doesn't sound like the song. Okay,
I swear I'm not trying to do a plug right now, but I literally this morning a video went live talking exactly about this. Yeah, I swear to God.
So are you saying like the tabs were wrong, or just
no? It's that
we're playing it too slow.
Playing it with the video is playing it with the intention of the original artist. So when you get a Petrucci tab. It's like every note is perfect. It's supposed to be there. He rehearsed it. Malmsteen's going wild. He's going crazy. He's improvising. So then, when you look at the tabs, it's like, what the hell's going on? It's like no one knows what the hell's going on, including Yngwie. Because if you said, hey, do that again, like when we were upstairs, you were playing, and then the guy said, hey, what was that? And you're like, I couldn't remember a single note of what I just did.
I don't even know what I just did. Yeah.
That's what Yngwie was doing.
That's a great point. Because that's growing up, I remember the one thing, like there were all these, I loved Malmsteen. I absolutely loved Malmsteen growing up. And I used to get all these tabs. I really want to, and I was like, I'm playing the notes. This sounds nothing like the song. Who tapped this? There's no way this is right. Every time. Yeah. So, but I think eventually that helped me get my own sound because I still wanted to play like them. So I would make up my own way of doing a Malmsteen lick because I couldn't play a Malmsteen lick. I couldn't do the sweep and I couldn't play this long run. So I was like, well, here's my way of doing it. That to me kind of sounds the same. Well, I don't know what Steve Vai does in this crazy lick. Here's my version of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And eventually that helped me get my own kind of sound. But what I was trying to do was mimic them, and I wasn't good enough, you know?
Well, I don't believe that, but yeah. But you do become a melting pot of your influences. So you're like a little Vi, you're a little Yngwie, you're a little Paul Gilbert, and then you sound like you, right? And that's the amazing thing. But why would you ever want to listen, like, especially with Yngwie, there's a lot of Yngwie wannabes online. They got scalp fretboards, everything.
Right. Who's that one main guy? What's his name?
I wasn't going to mention any names.
Yeah, I remember we shouldn't have mentioned his name, but there's one main guy that's like, you know, known for this, you know, and it's like...
But why listen to someone like that if you can listen to
Yngwie,
right?
Exactly.
And of course Yngwie's going to do it better.
I feel like there's less Yngwies today. I feel like at least when I was growing up, you know, there were a lot of, like, everyone wanted to sound like Yngwie, and like everyone's solo was at, like, you know, those same licks, those same scales. But
Yngwie is just so original. He's so unique. He's so like, and anyone who knows Yngwie just knows he doesn't care what anyone else is doing in the slightest.
Right. I think to me, he's probably, if you had like the cool factor, he's like, he's like one of the coolest guitar players. Just doesn't care about anyone, anything.
Yeah.
Did you see the Generation Axe tour when they came here?
I wasn't there, unfortunately.
Okay, so for people who don't know what Generation Axe was, it was a tour with Steve Vai, Zakk Wylde, Tosin Abasi, Nuno Bettencourt, and Yngwie Malmsteen. Okay, insane lineup. Now, Steve Vai has his two amps. Tosin Abasi had maybe one amp. Zakk Wylde had maybe one amp.
I know where this is
Nuno
going.
Bettencourt had maybe one amp, and behind them was a wall across the entire stage of Marshall stacks. Like the entire stage.
Who else would do that?
And it's just like, I don't care. I don't care if I'm being caught. I don't care. I'm Malmsteen, and you want me to come on this tour? No problem. Oh, we're all equals in this. There's no headliner or anything.
Right.
We're all getting the same amount of time. And then we're all
him, there's a headliner.
Right, exactly. And it was awesome. And then he came out, and he's like kicking. You know, he does those kicks with the pick. And he keeps going to his amp and turning it up. You see him nonstop going. And I was like, this guy doesn't care. And it was awesome. He killed it. He was probably my favorite part of that entire show, was seeing Malmsteen.
But imagine you or I on that tour. It's like, okay, you know,
exactly.
behave.
Right.
Don't,
I imagine Tosin was like that. He's probably the newest guy there, right? You know, you got Nuno Bettencourt and Malmsteen and all these guys. So
Nuno is like underrated too. You don't hear his name,
I was just about to say, definitely underrated.
But I was in a guitar competition in 2008 for Guitar Player magazine. They used to have that. I don't know if you remember those, but the judges for my year was Satriani, Greg Howe, Nuno Bettencourt, Steve Lukather, and then Mike Varney of Shrapnel Records. So like, that's crazy. I was actually super excited to meet Mike.
Did you win the competition?
That one I did not win.
Okay.
But it was some insane players and stuff like that. Nuno was like super cool. He was like the coolest guy ever.
So you got to meet all of them.
I had a chance to talk to Satch a little bit just because like he's one of my biggest idols. The reason I brought up Nuno though is that I was at NAMM like 4 months later or something like that, and some guitar booth that I wasn't even affiliated with, or like I think I knew who they were, and they were like, "Hey Jamie, like play one of our guitars and like, you know, get some attention at the booth and everything." And I start jamming, and there's like, you know, a little crowd of people watching and stuff, and right behind them is Nuno Bettencourt standing there watching me, and I'm like, if you guys had just turned around right now, like you would not care at all about me. You know. And it's like, and then he was super nice, took a picture, but like remembered who I was, and
really,
how you doing?
Really cool.
It was like, you know, Yngwie would not do that.
no, Yngwie would not care.
But I mean that, like any jokes I make about Yngwie, it's like, I love the guy. You know what I mean? And like, but he's got quite the personality, right? It's just, no one else could get away with that personality he does.
Only Yngwie. Right? And what I love about it is like, Steve Vai is so humble. You know, Zakk Wylde seems like a very humble guy. Like these guys are all so nice. And none of them cared that he was like that.
Right.
They're like, all right, let's go on tour. And they're all still buddies. And, you know, and it's not like there's like this like rivalry or anything. And they're like, no, you're going to come on the store, but you can only bring one amp.
Right.
It's like, all right, we'll get you your own truck, you know, here's your own trailer. Here's all the amps, and we'll set them up for you. And, Yeah, we'll all have our little amps, and you can have your entire...
I don't know if you know this, but before Steve Vai joined the David Lee Roth band, David Lee Roth wanted Yngwie to be the guitar player.
Really?
Can you imagine those egos in that band?
Wow, yeah, that would have been...
David Lee Roth and Yngwie Malmsteen, like, it would have been insane. It was just like too much. But yeah, no, Yngwie definitely deserves a lot more credit with the influence. Because in my opinion, in the 80s, influence-wise, it was Eddie and Yngwie, in my opinion. Like the guys who changed how everyone else played the guitar.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Randy Rhoads as well. I'll probably get in trouble for not saying Randy, but after Yngwie, everyone wanted to sound like Yngwie. Everybody.
Yeah, it was there was a huge wave of that.
Right? And of course with Eddie, like Eddie just literally changed
the way number one.
Yeah, the way everyone was playing the guitar changed because of Eddie. And still to this day, it makes me laugh so much that we're still tone chasing Van Halen 1 when it's like 40 years old. Usually a 40-year-old record sounds dated. No one wants to sound like that anymore. And everyone's still like, we got to get that tone from 40 years ago.
One thing that, I'm always saying it drives me wild. I think it's so crazy. Is we have insane technology today. You can get all these crazy plugins and, all these crazy studios all over the world and everything.
Yep.
And records from the 70s and 80s and still sound way better than anything being released today. Sonically, they just sound so much better, and I think a part of it is like to even get near a studio, you have to be amazing. Like,
so true.
You're not even going near a studio unless you're like
super
in the
expensive.
Greatest band. Exactly.
You have to know somebody.
Where now it's like anyone can record at home, anyone can put stuff out, and obviously we have plugins and everything compared to all the tube amps everyone was using and the proper miking techniques and stuff. And
amps turned up to 10.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and now it's what I would call a safe plug-in. You got your headphones on. It's like, and I do that too. Like everyone does that now.
Yeah, no, everything I'm using is just plugins. I mean, I live in a condo. I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to find a properly treated room that you can turn amp up to 10 and track the way you want to track. And also, like the bands had to, a lot of bands, including Van Halen, like you had to play in the room all together and get it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like nowadays, no one does that.
No one
does that. Like
no.
And
you can like cut in.
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing I'm always telling students too, is they listen to records now, like modern records, and they're just like, it's so flawless. Like, how come I don't sound like that? It's like, chances are they don't really sound like that either, because it's like, it's probably cut together of 5 different takes.
Exactly, yeah.
Right,
I feel like singers as well, people don't realize like, wow, how's he doing that run, without losing. There's videos on there of like, your favorite singers in the studio, and you see it like they're doing sometimes one word at a time. Just to get the right vibrato on that, in that certain word. And it's fine. That's what studio magic is for, It's like I want to I want to hear the record. Make it sound, sonically perfect. As long as you can sing it live as well and it's not fake or anything. Yeah. But
I don't have anything against it or judge or anything like that. But it's people just have to know it's not.
Yeah.
They didn't sing that start to finish in one take.
Right. Don't compare yourself to that.
Right. Exactly. It's funny. I've been saying that to students more and more recently, where it's I compare it to like the Men's Health covers. It's like, how come I don't look like that?
Right.
It's like they don't look like that. It's
right. It's all airbrush and everything. Yeah. But don't compare yourself.
Nowadays, guitar is experiencing that, where it's. I have students, again, I won't name names, but students will bring in TikToks. I want to learn this, and I'm watching the TikTok, being like, he's not doing what I'm hearing. It's like his finger's in the wrong place.
Right.
Like it's, you know what I mean?
That's the thing. Yeah, that's why I try to tell people, especially with my videos all the time, like, I'm a perfectionist, which is not a good thing. I'm trying to, like, stop that this year. It's one of my goals. But I'll do, like, as many takes as I need to get a perfect take. Yeah. And if anyone hears back, like, if I'm recording with someone in the room and they'll be like, every take sounds good. You can't hear the mistakes that I hear, It's little things. But to me, I was like, I wrote it a certain way, Yep. And for me, when I say mistakes, I mean, like, the vibrato was a little too wide in that section and I wanted something thinner, or the opposite, or like that certain slide, and I'll just do take after take after take until I get it perfect, and I'm able to get that. Sometimes it takes a while, but I'm able to get it to the point where it's like, and then I put it out and everyone's like, wow, he plays so flawlessly, and it's like, well, that 30-second clip took maybe 2 or 3 hours to to get done. So I try to tell people like don't. That's why I like doing the live streams.
Exactly.
Because in the live streams,
no hiding.
There's no hiding.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm improvising on whatever people request and stuff, and they can see the mistakes.
Yeah.
They can see like, oh, well, it's like.
To your point, what was funny is last week I posted a clip of a Patreon video, and I was. So I was showing how to practice to a metronome, and I was showing that you have to push yourself past what is comfortable, right? For speed to get fast, right? So someone commented nicely saying like, it's so humble of you to show, like, post yourself making mistakes, and I didn't even think anything. I was like, no, that's practice. That's what practice looks like. Like, if you think my practice routine is just flawless playing all day, I'm not practicing. Exactly. That's not practice, right? So. I didn't even see it as like mistakes. It's just that's how you get better at something. It's just
exactly.
How many times do you fall and how many times you get back up? Like it's the same thing on the guitar, right? Yeah. But nowadays, it's true. There's a expectation that everything you ever play is totally flawless, totally perfect, and that's just not the way it goes. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember when I first started posting, so it was the same way. I was like a professional at posting everything, and there was like proper audio. One day I got a new guitar, and I put up the video, and I forgot to take out the camera audio from like the recorded audio.
Right.
So you could hear like the pick attack instead of just, and I posted, I was like, whatever, it's still, it's not like, it's the same audio, it's just, you're going to hear a little bit of the room.
Yeah.
And some of the comments were like, oh, this doesn't sound as good as like your other stuff. It sounds great. And I was like, I don't know. I just thought it was so weird. Like, so everything needs to be perfect. You can't have, so you don't want to hear the pick attack.
It needs to be ready for radio.
Yeah. It's like,
for a 30-second TikTok.
Make sure everything's super mixed, and like everything. But
spend $1,000 on mastering and
exactly, for every little thing.
But that's one thing I'm always telling students is just like that's not a realistic experience of playing the guitar.
Right.
It's not at all. Also with like mistakes, you and I listening, like me listening to myself, you listening to yourself, we're hearing mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
The audience is like, that sounds insane. That sounds, you're not hitting it the way you wanted to. The pick attack was soft on that note, whatever, right? The vibrato, as you mentioned, like we're all our own worst critics that way as well. So it's like, I get that sometimes, man, if I could play like you, just like, right? Like, just everything's perfect. It's like, you think that's how I'm thinking about it when I'm playing? Like, it's just.
Like, are you happy with your playing? Are you like
question.
Not where you think you should be?
Oh, if I could list like 50 different things that I would love to improve on immediately off the top of my head. I'm proud of my playing, like the work's been put in and all that kind of stuff, and I think that's good. But everyone playing the guitar is on a journey with the instrument, right? Yeah. So it's like there's no finish line, and that's why it's also tough. It's not like there's a beginner phase and then an intermediate phase.
Right. There's no like.
You're just always trying new stuff, right? So, as we were talking about earlier, like if I listen to like a bluegrass player or something like that, it's just like, holy smokes, that's like listening to you play that acoustic upstairs. I'm thinking there's like there's so many things you're doing where they're not what I would do. So then it's like that's new to me and exciting, and I would love to learn that. You know what I mean? It's like that's what keeps it fun. Right? If we were, you'd get so bored of guitar if there was like any, just nothing you need to work on anymore. You're done.
Good point. Yeah.
Like it's just,
definitely agree with all that.
Thankfully, that doesn't happen. I watched an interview recently that I really liked with Al Di Meola and Steve Vai. And what I really appreciated from it is that both of those guys have been playing professionally for like 40 years, if not more. Right. And yet, at one point, both of them said, man, when I listen to you play, I'm like, I could never do that. And then he said it to Steve, and he's like, when I listen to you play, and here's guys at like the top of their game for 40 years, still in awe of each other, right? So it's like, that's kind of how it works, right? That's like how guitar players, I'm sure at the generation acts, like there's stuff that Tosin's doing that no one else there can do, but then there's stuff that Yngwie's doing that Tosin can't do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? No offense to Tosin, I'm not saying you know what I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I don't
It's
know,
just
I
like
get that.
different styles, different, like some guitar players are improvisers, some aren't, right? You have them jam on a 12-bar blues and they don't really know what to do, right? But then a Guthrie just destroys.
Yeah, it sounds like a written piece, that you spend hours on. It's just his first take.
It's different, things you want to accomplish on the guitar, like what you decide to do with the guitar. But it's a good question. Like I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. That's funny. But I think so. Here's what I would say for people listening is that you could look at any of my YouTube videos and I could point out to you things I wish I could have done better, or what I would have fixed, or and maybe the audience doesn't hear those things, but like when I watch it back, I'm never like, oh yeah, I smoked it. That was like, never the reaction. The only time I get excited like that is when it's an improvised solo and something came out unplanned that worked better than I thought. It's like, oh, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But
that's why I love doing the live streams, because like people can see me in real time, like react to my own playing. If I'm playing over a backing track and there's an altered chord and like I'm not a jazz player and I nailed that altered lick in the right spot, I'm gonna be like, whoa, I'll get excited. I'm like, whoa, I just nailed that.
Exactly.
I don't usually do that. Plus I'm improvising, so I'm like, I'm excited about that too. It's like
that's what keeps it fun.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you could do that 10 out of 10 times, it would lose its fun. Right. It's like kind of what's the point.
Right.
Right. One thing I wanted to ask you, because I don't hear a lot of people talk about this online, is mistakes you think people make learning the guitar at any level, not just beginner, but just like things that you think people should do more of. Right.
I think a lot of kind of beginner to intermediate players, when they learn songs and they play covers, they're not focusing on the phrasing, like the little nuances. Like their playing will sound choppy because they're lifting their fingers up too early to go to the next note.
Yeah.
They're not adding vibratos. They're not adding bend or certain slides. They're playing the song correctly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound at all like it. And for years, people will do this and they'll stay in that amateur type of sound.
Yes.
And I think people need to focus a little bit more on how maybe the player played it. They're listening to and try to kind of, okay, you learned the notes, you've got it down, but how can you actually get it to sound like it? Or maybe not exactly like it, but maybe clean up the smoothness of it and listen to those little nuances, like work on the phrasing type of thing.
Right.
I see that a lot.
I think you'd agree. It's not always the note you play, but it's how you play it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I see that a lot with people who will learn my solos, and I'll listen back and I was like, nailed it. You got it. All the notes, great job. But it sounds really choppy. Why is there no vibrato at all? Why did you have vibrato here but not there? Why is there not? Why didn't you bend here? Or why is there no vibrato on this bend? Why was there a half bend here?
Bending intonation is that unfortunately it's a technique where I'm a huge bending fan. Like it's funny whenever I see a lot of videos online where it's like, if you could only do one technique for the rest of your playing, would it be sweeping? Would it be tapping? I'm like, none of that. It would be bending. It would be 100% bending.
Boomer bends?
Yeah. But I think bending that's what makes the electric guitar the expression instrument that it is. Right. Because on a piano, you can't do that, or a trumpet, or you can't. That soul, that feel that everyone always talks about is from the bending, right? So, but if you're bending out of pitch, it's glaring to the ear. It's it sounds amateurish, right? So just getting bending intonation better will make you sound way more what's the word I'm looking for? Polished as a guitar player. You know what I mean? Like, and also more exciting. Like I was saying to you earlier, like when I listen to you, your bending it jumps out the screen for me. It's just like, oh, it sounds awesome, right? But and that's not something you hear online a lot.
What would you say players.
Mistakes?
Yeah.
One thing that is always a suggestion of mine to all students of all levels, especially when learning music, is to play with the music, is to like play to the track for timing, rhythm, memorization, consistency, pretty much everything you're trying to work on is, it's also providing like external pressure, right? That you have to keep up, because like you could sit there and get from this chord to the next chord when you get there. Right, and instead with the track, it's like, no, it has to be on that beat,
right,
and
kind of puts you in that frame where you don't really have a choice,
right. And you know, nowadays, not everyone always has the opportunity to jam with other musicians, right? But it's playing with the track basically provides that to you, that you're jamming with other people, if that makes sense,
right? I feel like today too, I think less people or less students are improvising or working on improvising, where I feel like when we grew up, like you get together with a buddy and just 12-bar blues, go. Straight solos. Like that's how it was. Whenever, at least me growing up, any friend I had that played guitar, it was constantly like just improvising. It wasn't really playing songs. You know, it was just kind of improvising. That's where you kind of learn that type of thing. And now obviously they could just do the same thing with backing tracks, but I feel like people put more focus on learning songs and learning solos. Than improvising. And
with improvising, it takes like an insane amount of time to become somewhat fluent with it. Not even fluent, but just like proficient, where like you can sound good when improvise. People are asking for like a quick fix with that. You know, it's like, what's the secret to improvising? It's like, I don't know, 10 years of practice. Like just
it takes a long time of putting things together. Even now, I feel like I'm getting better and better at it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like all the time. There's so many different things that go into it.
I think improvising is crucial, because I always compare learning guitar and music to learning a language, which essentially it is, right? So improvising is your ability to just have a conversation and communicate without having to like prepare a speech that is memorized and, you know, perfectly articulated. But when you're learning a language, you're hoping to just communicate and have some dialogue between people, and that's what improvising is musically, right? It's
makes sense.
You didn't have to sit there and write that solo for a week. I could probably throw any chord progression at you and you'd be fine playing over top of it, right? So that's a different skill and I think level of musicianship. Right?
No, for sure. I think a lot of people need to focus. For me, it was like I would get together with my instructor and it was like, okay, let's jam.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. The last few years of lessons, that's all it was for me.
Just jamming. All right. Well, try this, try that. Well, no feel. Like, okay, let's try playing with the more feel. You know, that's what it was. But
what my teacher would always do is almost, and now I do it with my students, is play almost devil's advocate. Anything I'm not really doing, he's going to do that, and then it's just for ideas. It's just like, oh, I didn't think of doing that over these chords, or I didn't, you know, or I'm trying to play too fast, and he's just like, you know, hitting the right note at the right time. It's just like, that's how you get a million ideas, is kind of playing off of each other.
Exactly.
Right? You and I could improvise for 10 hours and not run out of ideas. Like it's just, that's the fun of it. Right?
No, improvising great. Going back to what you were talking about, like mistakes players make, and this is similar to when you were saying like you got to play with a song because then it forces you. With the timing and stuff, it's practicing speed without a metronome. And people are like, well, how fast are you? And they'll just kind of like, you know what I mean? I was like, well, the thing is when you practice with a metronome, you don't have a choice. You got to play at that certain speed for a while. Where if you're doing it without a metronome, you're going to fluctuate. You're not a machine.
Oh, absolutely.
So you might play faster, you might play slower. Most of the time you'll slow down, but you'll think you're still practicing at that same speed. So you're not practicing. And when you practice with a metronome, it forces you to try to keep up. And that's how you improve, you know? Like that's where you're like, oh shit, you know, like I'm not quite there, like let me like
100%. Yeah, a metronome is crucial for any practice. What I just realized is that camera shut off, which is one of the microphones. That's what I just realized. Is that. So maybe we got what we got, but